Hey there, fellow thrill seekers. Welcome to Horror Dark Stories, where your deepest fears come to life. I know many of you enjoy these eerie tales as you drift off to sleep, so before we dive into tonight's spine-chilling adventure, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is in your neck of the woods. Now, find a comfortable spot, settle in, and let's step into the darkness together. The old Victorian mansion stood on a hill overlooking the town of Hollow Creek, a silent sentinel against the encroaching dusk. Its darkened windows, like vacant eyes, seemed to watch, to wait. Locals whispered stories about the Blackwood Manor, tales of a family tragedy, of lingering spirits, and unexplained phenomena. It was a place where shadows danced and whispers echoed, a place that dared anyone to unravel its secrets. For years, paranormal investigator teams had flocked to Hollow Creek, eager to capture evidence of the supernatural. Each team, armed with their gadgets and bravado, ventured into the Blackwood Manor, only to emerge shaken, empty-handed, or worse, with stories that made the bravest souls shudder. The mansion remained an enigma, its mysteries shrouded in an impenetrable veil of fear. Our team, Seekers of the Unknown, was different. We weren't just thrill seekers or ghost hunters. We were researchers, driven by a genuine desire to understand the unexplained. We approached each investigation with a blend of scientific rigor and open-minded curiosity. Our team consisted of Sarah, our tech expert, a whiz with audio and video equipment, Mark, our historian, who delved into the background of each location, and myself, Alex, the lead investigator, fascinated by the human stories behind the hauntings. The Blackwood Manor was our biggest challenge yet. We had spent weeks researching its history, poring over old documents, and interviewing locals. The story that emerged was a tragic one. The Blackwood family, prominent in the town's early days, had been struck by a series of misfortunes. First, their eldest son disappeared without a trace. Then, a fire claimed their daughter. Finally, Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood died within months of each other, leaving the mansion to crumble into disrepair and whispered rumors. We arrived at Hollow Creek on a crisp autumn evening, the air thick with an unsettling stillness. The mansion loomed before us, its silhouette stark against the fading light. As we approached, a cold gust of wind swept through the trees, carrying with it an almost imperceptible whisper. It sounded like a name, but we couldn't be sure. Sarah set up her equipment, meticulously checking each camera, microphone, and EMF reader. Mark began his initial sweep of the house, noting any unusual features or architectural anomalies. I walked through the main rooms, trying to get a feel for the atmosphere, to sense the echoes of the past. The air inside the mansion was heavy, charged with an unseen energy. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through the grimy windows, creating an eerie spectacle. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the occasional creak of the old house settling. As we delved deeper into the mansion, we began to experience strange occurrences. The temperature fluctuated wildly, going from chilly to almost stifling in a matter of seconds. We heard faint footsteps on the upper floors, even though we were all on the ground level. Sarah's EMF reader went haywire in the main parlor, the needle spinning erratically as if it had encountered a powerful energy source. We decided to split up, each of us taking a different section of the house. Sarah and Mark went upstairs, while I stayed on the ground floor. As I explored the library, a room filled with decaying books and cobweb-draped furniture, I felt a presence, a sense of being watched. I turned around, but there was no one there. Suddenly, a book flew off a shelf, hitting the floor with a loud thud. I jumped back, startled. My heart pounded in my chest. I cautiously approached the fallen book. It was a journal, its pages filled with faded handwriting. As I began to read, I realized it was Mr. Blackwood's diary. The diary chronicled the family's misfortunes, revealing Mr. Blackwood's growing despair and his belief that a dark force was at work in the mansion. He wrote about strange noises, unexplained occurrences, and a growing sense of dread. The last entry spoke of a ritual, a desperate attempt to appease the entity he believed was tormenting his family. As I read, the temperature in the room dropped dramatically. I felt a coldness seep into my bones. The air grew heavy, making it difficult to breathe. I heard a whisper, clearer this time, a woman's voice calling a name. It was the same name I had heard earlier outside. Just then, Sarah's voice crackled through our walkie-talkies. "Alex, Mark, we need you upstairs. Something's happening." We rushed upstairs, our footsteps echoing through the silent halls. We found Sarah and Mark in the master bedroom, their faces pale. The room was in disarray, furniture overturned, and the air thick with a metallic scent. "We heard a noise," Sarah said, her voice trembling. A scream. It came from this room. We searched the room, but found nothing. As we were about to leave, Mark noticed a small, hidden door behind a wardrobe. We opened it, revealing a narrow staircase leading down to a dark, musty basement. We descended into the basement, our flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. The air was cold and damp, and the silence was absolute. We reached the bottom of the stairs and found ourselves in a large, stone-walled chamber. In the center of the room, there was a stone altar, stained with what looked like dried blood. A wave of fear washed over me. This was the place Mr. Blackwood had written about in his diary, the site of the ritual. I felt a sense of dread, as if we had stumbled into something ancient and evil. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging us into complete darkness. We fumbled for our flashlights, but they wouldn't turn on. We were trapped in the dark, in the heart of the mansion's dark secret. Then we heard it, a low, guttural growl echoing through the chamber. It was followed by a chilling whisper, the same woman's voice, but now filled with malice. We huddled together, our hearts pounding in our chests. We knew we had to get out of there, but we were lost in the dark, pursued by an unseen entity. As we stumbled through the darkness, I tripped over something. I reached down and felt something cold and smooth. It was a bone, a human bone. A wave of nausea washed over me. We were in a tomb, a place where the Blackwood family had buried their secrets, their tragedies, and their victims. Just when we thought all hope was lost, a faint light appeared at the end of the chamber. We stumbled towards it, our bodies aching, our spirits broken. We emerged from the basement, blinking in the dim light of the mansion's main hall. We had survived, but we were forever changed by what we had experienced. We left the Blackwood Manor that night, vowing never to return. We had faced the darkness, and we had lived to tell the tale. But the memories of what we had seen and heard would forever haunt us. We reviewed the evidence we had gathered, the audio recordings, the video footage, the EMF readings. We found nothing conclusive, no definitive proof of the paranormal. But we knew what we had experienced. We had felt the presence, heard the whispers, and sensed the evil that lurked within the walls of the Blackwood Manor. The Blackwood Manor remained an enigma, its secrets still shrouded in mystery. But we had learned a valuable lesson. Some doors are best left unopened, some mysteries are best left unsolved, and some places are simply better left alone. But the story doesn't end there. A week later, I received a package in the mail. Inside, there was a single object, a small, antique music box. It was the same music box that Mr. Blackwood had described in his diary, the one he had used in the ritual. I opened the music box. A haunting melody filled the air, a tune that sent chills down my spine. As the music played, a small figure appeared on the top of the box, a woman in a white dress. It was the woman's voice we had heard in the mansion, the one who had whispered the name. The figure turned towards me, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. It raised its hand, pointing at me. Then the music stopped and the figure vanished. I closed the music box, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew what I had to do. I had to return to the Blackwood Manor. I gathered my team and we returned to Hollow Creek. This time, we were not investigators. We were on a mission to confront the evil that lurked within the mansion's walls. We entered the mansion, armed with our equipment and our courage. We went straight to the basement, to the stone altar. We placed the music box on the altar, and then we waited. The air grew cold. The silence deepened. Then we heard the whisper, The woman's voice, closer this time, louder. The lights flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. We heard the growl, the same guttural sound we had heard before. But this time we were not afraid. We were ready. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the darkness. A woman in a white dress, her eyes glowing with an eerie light. It was the figure from the music box. She raised her hand, pointing at us. But then, something unexpected happened. The music box began to play, the haunting melody filling the chamber. The figure in white faltered, its eyes widening in surprise. The figure turned towards the music box, its expression changing from menacing to something akin to sorrow. The melody seemed to resonate within the chamber, pushing back the oppressive darkness, creating a pocket of light and warmth. The growling subsided, replaced by a soft, mournful sigh. We watched, transfixed, as the figure in white began to sway to the music, her movements graceful and ethereal. The anger that had radiated from her moments before dissipated, replaced by a profound sadness. As the music reached its crescendo, the figure began to speak, her voice no longer a chilling whisper, but a soft, melodic lament. She spoke in a language we didn't understand, yet the emotion in her voice was clear. It was a tale of loss, of betrayal, of a love tragically cut short. Mark, our historian, recognized some of the words, tracing them back to a dialect spoken in the region centuries ago. He pieced together the story as she spoke, translating for us in hushed tones. The woman, named Alara, had been betrothed to the eldest son of the Blackwood family. They were deeply in love, their future bright with promise. But their happiness was shattered when he mysteriously disappeared. Alara, heartbroken, refused to believe he was dead. She searched for him tirelessly, driven by her unwavering love. Mr. Blackwood, consumed by grief and a growing paranoia, became convinced that a dark entity had taken his son. He turned to ancient rituals, seeking a way to bring him back, or at least appease the entity he believed was responsible. He sacrificed everything, including his family, in his desperate quest. Alara, witnessing her beloved's father descend into madness, tried to stop him. She discovered the truth about the rituals, the dark secrets hidden within the mansion's walls. But Mr. Blackwood, driven by his obsession, silenced her, trapping her spirit within the mansion, binding her to the music box, a conduit for his dark magic. The music box, Alara explained through her lament, was not a tool of evil, but a prison, a vessel containing her sorrow and her longing. The rituals had twisted her spirit, amplifying her pain, turning her into the vengeful entity that haunted the mansion. But the music, the melody of her love, was the key to freeing her. As the music box played its final notes, Alara's form began to shimmer and fade. She turned to us, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, the words clear and distinct. "You have freed me." Then, she was gone, her spirit released from its earthly prison. The darkness that had enveloped the chamber lifted, replaced by a sense of peace. The temperature returned to normal, the air no longer heavy with dread. We left the basement, our hearts filled with a mixture of awe and relief. We had not only solved the mystery of the Blackwood Manor, but we had also helped a trapped soul find peace. The next morning, we returned to the mansion one last time. We found Mr. Blackwood's journal, the final entry detailing his regret, his realization of the terrible mistake he had made. He had tried to break the curse, to free Alara, but he was too late. We also found a hidden compartment in the master bedroom, containing a letter from the missing Blackwood son. He had not been taken by a dark entity. He had run away, unable to bear the weight of his father's expectations, the pressure of his family's legacy. He had started a new life in another town, never knowing the tragedy that had befallen his family. We left the Blackwood Manor for good, knowing that its secrets were finally laid bare. The mansion no longer held an aura of fear and dread. It was just an old house, filled with the echoes of a tragic past. The story of the Blackwood Manor became a local legend, a cautionary tale of the dangers of obsession and the power of love and forgiveness. Our team, Seekers of the Unknown, became known for our work at Hollow Creek, but we never forgot the lessons we learned there. We continued our investigations, but with a newfound respect for the power of the human spirit and the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. We released a video documenting our investigation at the Blackwood Manor, including the audio recordings of Alara's lament and Mark's translation. The video went viral, captivating audiences around the world. Many were skeptical, dismissing it as a hoax, but others were deeply moved by the story, recognizing the truth in Alara's words. The video ended with a close-up of the music box, the haunting melody playing softly in the background. A message appeared on the screen. Some mysteries are best left unsolved, but some stories deserve to be told. But the story doesn't truly end there. A few months after the video was released, I received an email from a man claiming to be a descendant of the Blackwood family. He had seen the video and recognized the music box. He told me that the music box had been passed down through his family for generations, a reminder of their tragic past. He also told me that the melody played by the music box was not just a tune, but a code, a series of notes that corresponded to letters in an ancient alphabet. He had been trying to decipher the code for years, but had never been able to crack it. He sent me the code, hoping that I, with my experience in paranormal investigations, might be able to help him. I studied the code, comparing it to ancient alphabets and symbols. Finally, I cracked it. The code revealed a message from Alara, written centuries ago. It was a message of love, a message of hope, a message that transcended time and death. The message read, "My love for you is eternal. Even in death, I will always be with you. Look for me in the music, in the whispers of the wind, in the light of the stars. Our love will never die." The message was addressed to the Blackwood son, the one who had run away. Alara had known that he was still alive, that their love was not lost. She had left him a message, a testament to her enduring love, a promise that they would be reunited someday. I shared the message with the descendant of the Blackwood family. He was deeply moved, tears streaming down his face. He told me that he had always felt a connection to the music box, a sense that it held a secret, a message from the past. He thanked me for helping him uncover the truth, for bringing him closer to his ancestors, to the love that had transcended generations. The story of the Blackwood Manor, the story of Alara and her lost love, became a timeless tale, a reminder that love can conquer even death, that hope can bloom even in the darkest of places. And the music box, the vessel of her sorrow and her love, became a symbol of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The video ends with the music box playing the melody once more, a haunting yet beautiful tune, a reminder of the love that echoed through the halls of the Blackwood Manor, a love that lived on even after death. The melody lingered, a bittersweet echo in the silence that followed the message's revelation. The descendant of the Blackwood family, a man named Thomas, clutched the music box, his fingers tracing the intricate carvings on its surface. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and a lingering sadness. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've given me a piece of my family history I never thought I'd find." He paused, then added, "But there's one more thing." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What is it?" Thomas explained that along with the music box, his family had inherited a collection of old letters, passed down through the generations. He had never paid much attention to them, assuming they were just mundane family correspondence. But after seeing the video and learning about Alara's message, he realized that they might contain more clues, more secrets waiting to be unearthed. We spent the next few days poring over the letters, carefully translating the faded handwriting and deciphering the archaic language. Most of the letters were indeed personal, detailing the everyday lives of the Blackwood family. But interspersed among them were a few that stood out, letters that hinted at a deeper, more complex story. These letters were written by Alara, not just to the Blackwood son, but to other members of the family, including Mr. Blackwood himself. They revealed a different side of Alara, a woman of intelligence and resilience, who had tried to warn the family about the dangers of Mr. Blackwood's obsession. She had pleaded with him to abandon the rituals, to see the damage he was inflicting on his family. But her pleas had fallen on deaf ears. One letter, addressed to the Blackwood Sun, revealed a shocking secret. Alara had discovered that the entity Mr. Blackwood was trying to appease was not an external force, but something far more insidious. It was a manifestation of his own grief and guilt, a dark reflection of his inner turmoil. The rituals were not appeasing any external entity. They were feeding this darkness, amplifying it, giving it power. Alara had tried to convince Mr. Blackwood of this, but he had refused to listen, blinded by his grief and his desperate hope to bring back his son. In her letter, Alara wrote, "The darkness is not outside, it is within, feeds on despair and thrives on fear. Only by facing this darkness within himself can he break free." This revelation changed everything. It wasn't just about freeing Alara's spirit. It was about confronting the darkness that had consumed the Blackwood family, a darkness that still lingered within the mansion's walls. We returned to Hollow Creek, not as paranormal investigators, but as seekers of truth, determined to unravel the final mystery of the Blackwood Manor. We went straight to the basement, to the stone altar where the rituals had been performed. Thomas carried the music box, its melody now a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness. We placed the music box on the altar just as we had before. But this time, we didn't wait for Alara's spirit to appear. We knew that the true entity we had to confront was not a ghost, but something far more intangible. We sat in silence, our minds focused, trying to connect with the energy that permeated the chamber. We could feel the darkness, a heavy, oppressive presence. But we also felt something else, a flicker of light, a spark of hope. Then, Thomas began to speak, his voice echoing through the chamber. He spoke not to a ghost, but to the darkness itself. He spoke of the Blackwood family's tragedy, of the pain and suffering that had consumed them. He spoke of Alara's courage, her love, her unwavering belief in the power of good. He spoke of the truth that she had uncovered, the truth about the darkness within. As Thomas spoke, the music box began to play, its melody filling the chamber with its haunting beauty. The darkness seemed to recoil, its power waning in the face of the music's light. Then, something extraordinary happened. A light began to emanate from the altar, growing brighter and brighter, pushing back the shadows. The darkness began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of peace, a feeling of release. We realized that we were witnessing not a paranormal phenomenon, but a spiritual one. We were witnessing the healing of a family's wounds, the release of the darkness that had haunted them for generations. As the light reached its peak, a figure appeared on the altar, not Alara, but Mr. Blackwood. He was no longer the tormented, grief-stricken man of legend. He was at peace, his face filled with a quiet serenity. He looked at us, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You have freed us all." Then he was gone, his spirit finally released from its earthly bonds. The light faded, leaving behind a sense of profound peace. We left the basement, knowing that the mystery of the Blackwood Manor was finally solved. The darkness was gone, replaced by the light of truth and forgiveness. The story of the Blackwood Manor became a legend, a tale not of ghosts and hauntings, but of the power of love, forgiveness, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. And the music box, the vessel of Alara's sorrow and her love, became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, light can prevail. The video ends with Thomas holding the music box, a single tear rolling down his cheek. The haunting melody plays one last time, a song of peace, a song of hope, a song of love. The screen fades to black, leaving the audience with a lingering sense of wonder and a profound understanding of the true meaning of the Blackwood Manor's secrets. The silence that followed the final note of the music box was profound, a stark contrast to the echoing whispers and chilling drafts that had permeated the Blackwood Manor for centuries. Thomas carefully closed the lid of the music box, his hand lingering for a moment as if reluctant to break the spell that had been woven. He turned to us, his face etched with a quiet understanding. "It's over," he murmured, more to himself than to us. "It's finally over." We nodded, a shared sense of closure settling over us. The weight that had pressed down on us since we first entered the mansion had lifted, replaced by a lightness of being, a feeling of having witnessed something truly extraordinary. We gathered our equipment, the tools of our trade now seeming almost superfluous in the face of what we had experienced. As we walked through the silent halls of the mansion, we couldn't help but feel a sense of reverence, a respect for the history that had unfolded within these walls. The Blackwood Manor was no longer a place of fear, but a place of peace, a testament to the enduring power of love and forgiveness. As we stepped out of the mansion and into the cool night air, we looked back at the imposing structure, its silhouette now softened by the moonlight. It stood on the hill overlooking Hollow Creek, no longer a symbol of dread, but a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. We returned to our hotel, exhausted but exhilarated. We reviewed the footage from our cameras, the audio recordings from our microphones. There was nothing concrete, no visual or auditory evidence of the paranormal events we had witnessed. But we knew what we had experienced. We had felt the presence, heard the whispers, witnessed the transformation. We had seen the darkness give way to light. We decided to release another video, a follow-up to our initial investigation. This video would tell the complete story of the Blackwood Manor, from the tragic history of the family to the revelation of Alara's message and the final confrontation with the darkness. We included Thomas's account of his family history, his connection to the music box, and his role in the final resolution. The second video was even more impactful than the first. It resonated with audiences on a deeper level, touching upon themes of loss, forgiveness, and the power of the human spirit. It sparked a global conversation about the nature of good and evil, the existence of the paranormal, and the importance of facing our inner demons. The Blackwood Manor became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, light can prevail. People from all walks of life were drawn to the story, finding solace and inspiration in the tale of Alara's enduring love and the Blackwood family's redemption. But the story didn't end there. A few months after the release of the second video, I received a letter. It was from Thomas. He wrote that he had been contacted by a woman who claimed to be a descendant of the Blackwood son, the one who had run away. The woman, named Emily, had seen the videos and recognized the music box. She told Thomas that she had inherited a collection of her ancestors' belongings, including a journal. The journal, she said, contained the son's account of his life after he left Hollow Creek. Thomas and Emily met, and together they read the journal. It told a poignant story of a man haunted by guilt and regret, a man who had spent his life searching for redemption. He had never forgotten Alara, his love for her enduring even across the years. He had tried to return to Hollow Creek, but fear had held him back. He had lived a life of quiet desperation, always wondering what might have been. The journal ended with a final entry, written shortly before the son's death. He wrote of a dream in which he had seen Alara. She had told him that she was waiting for him, that their love would be reunited in the afterlife. He wrote that he was no longer afraid, that he was ready to meet her. Thomas shared the journal entry with me, and I added it to the Blackwood Manor story. It was the final piece of the puzzle, the missing link that completed the narrative. It was a testament to the enduring power of love, a love that transcended time and death. We released a third video, a short epilogue to the Blackwood Manor story. It included the journal entry and a reflection on the themes of love, loss, and redemption. The video ended with a final image of the music box, its haunting melody playing softly in the background. The story of the Blackwood Manor became a timeless tale, a reminder that love can conquer even death, that forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds, and that hope can bloom even in the darkest of places. The music box, the vessel of Alara's sorrow and her love, became a symbol of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. And the Blackwood Manor, once a place of fear and dread, became a beacon of light, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, love can prevail. The video fades to black, leaving the audience with a lingering sense of peace and a profound understanding of the true meaning of the Blackwood Manor's secrets. The echoes of the music box melody faded, leaving a quiet resonance in their wake. The story of the Blackwood Manor, now complete, had touched countless lives, sparking conversations about love, loss, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The videos we released, documenting our journey from fear to understanding, had become a phenomenon, reaching millions across the globe. But for us, the story wasn't just a phenomenon. It was a deeply personal experience, a journey that had changed us in profound ways. We had faced our own fears, confronted the unknown, and emerged with a renewed appreciation for the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension. The Blackwood Manor had taught us that some doors are best left unopened, but also that some stories deserve to be told, that truth can emerge even from the darkest of places. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after such an experience. We continued our work as paranormal investigators, but with a different perspective. We were no longer just seeking evidence of the supernatural. We were searching for the human stories behind the hauntings, the echoes of lives lived and lost, the whispers of love and loss that lingered in the fabric of time. Thomas, now at peace with his family history, continued to cherish the music box, its melody a constant reminder of Alara's enduring love and the redemption of the Blackwood family. He kept in touch with Emily, the descendant of the Blackwood son, and they became close friends, sharing their family history and the legacy of their ancestors. One day, I received a call from Thomas. He had discovered something new, something that had been hidden for generations. It was a small, leather-bound book, tucked away in a secret compartment of an old desk that had belonged to the Blackwood son. He told me that the book contained a series of poems, written by Alara. They were not just poems of love and loss, but also poems of hope and resilience, poems that spoke of the enduring power of the human spirit. Thomas shared the poems with me, and I was deeply moved by their beauty and their profound message. They were a testament to Alara's strength, her intelligence, and her unwavering belief in the good. We decided to publish the poems, sharing them with the world as a final chapter in the Blackwood Manor story. The poems resonated with audiences in a powerful way, offering solace and inspiration in a world often filled with darkness and uncertainty. The story of the Blackwood Manor, the story of Alara and her lost love, the story of a family redeemed, became a timeless tale, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, love can prevail, forgiveness can heal, and hope can bloom. The music box, the vessel of Alara's sorrow and her love, became a symbol of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. And the Blackwood Manor, once a place of fear and dread, became a beacon of light, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love can conquer all. The story ends not with a dramatic finale, but with a quiet sense of peace, a feeling of closure, a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. The echoes of the music box melody linger, a gentle reminder of the love that transcended time and death, a love that continues to resonate through the ages. The final image is not of the imposing mansion, but of a single wildflower blooming amidst the ruins, a symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The screen fades to white, leaving the audience with a lingering sense of wonder and the profound understanding that some stories, like the melodies of the heart, are eternal. The white screen lingered, a blank canvas upon which the echoes of the Blackwood Manor story continued to resonate. The quiet peace that had settled over us, and the world that had embraced the tale, was a testament to the enduring power of hope and the human spirit. But as we had learned, stories, like life itself, rarely truly end. They evolve, they whisper secrets in the quiet moments, and sometimes they demand to be heard once more. A year passed. The Blackwood Manor had faded from the headlines, becoming a quiet legend whispered in hushed tones. We had moved on, continuing our investigations, but the experience at Hollow Creek had profoundly shaped our approach. We were no longer just ghost hunters. We were storytellers, seeking to uncover the human heart within the mysteries we explored. Then I received an email. It was from Emily, the descendant of the Blackwood son. She wrote that she had been going through some of her ancestors' belongings when she stumbled upon a hidden compartment in an old trunk. Inside, she found a small, intricately carved wooden box. She sent me photos of the box. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. The carvings depicted scenes from the Blackwood Manor, including the stone altar, the music box, and even a figure resembling Alara. But there were also symbols that I didn't recognize, symbols that seemed ancient and enigmatic. Emily wrote that she had tried to open the box, but it was locked. She had taken it to several locksmiths, but none of them could open it without damaging the box. She believed that the box was meant to be opened, that it held another secret, another piece of the Blackwood Manor puzzle. Intrigued, I contacted Thomas. He was just as curious as I was. We decided to travel to meet Emily and examine the box ourselves. When we arrived at Emily's home, she showed us the box. It was even more beautiful and mysterious in person. The carvings seemed to pulse with a faint energy, as if the box itself was alive. We carefully examined the lock. It was an unusual mechanism, unlike any lock we had ever seen. It seemed to require not a key, but a sequence, a combination of some kind. We spent hours trying to figure out the lock, studying the carvings, searching for clues. Then Thomas noticed something. He pointed to a series of small indentations on the side of the box, each indentation corresponding to one of the symbols carved on the surface. He realized that the lock was a musical lock, designed to be opened by a specific melody. He remembered the music box, its haunting tune, the melody that had freed Alara's spirit. We tried playing the melody on a nearby piano, pressing the indentations in the order of the notes. Nothing happened. Then, Emily suggested trying the melody in reverse. We played the melody backwards, pressing the indentations in the reverse order of the notes. The lock clicked. The box opened. Inside, we found a small, rolled-up piece of parchment. We carefully unrolled it. It was another letter written by Alara. This letter was different from the others. It was not a message of love or loss, but a warning. Alara wrote that the darkness that had consumed the Blackwood family was not entirely gone. It had been weakened, but it still lingered dormant, waiting for an opportunity to rise again. She wrote that the music box was not just a prison for her spirit, but also a seal, a barrier that kept the darkness contained. She warned that if the music box was ever destroyed or its melody silenced, the darkness would be unleashed once more. Alara's letter sent a chill down our spines. We had thought that the story of the Blackwood Manor was over, but it was clear that the danger was not yet past. We realized that the carved wooden box was not just a container, but another seal, a safeguard against the darkness. The melody of the music box was the key, not just to opening the box, but to maintaining the balance, to keeping the darkness at bay. We carefully closed the box, making sure the lock was secured. We knew that we had a responsibility to protect the music box, to ensure that its melody continued to play, to keep the darkness from rising again. The story of the Blackwood Manor continued, not as a tale of ghosts and hauntings, but as a story of vigilance, a reminder that the battle against darkness is never truly over. We understood that the music box was more than just an object. It was a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in a world where darkness constantly threatened to engulf us. The video ends with a close-up of the music box, its melody playing softly, a promise that the light will endure, that hope will prevail, as long as the music plays on. The soft melody of the music box filled the air, a constant, gentle hum that served as a reminder of the delicate balance we now held in our hands. Alara's warning echoed in our minds, a chilling reminder that the darkness, though dormant, was not defeated. It was merely waiting, lurking in the shadows, ready to seize any opportunity to reclaim its hold. We knew that the music box was more than just an artifact. It was a responsibility. Its melody was the key, the safeguard against the resurgence of the darkness that had plagued the Blackwood family for generations. We decided to keep the music box safe, entrusting it to Thomas, the descendant of the family, knowing that its protection was his birthright. Life resumed its rhythm, but with a subtle shift. We continued our paranormal investigations, but our focus had changed. We were no longer just seeking thrills or evidence of the supernatural. We were searching for stories, for the echoes of human experience that lingered in the haunted places we explored. We understood that every haunting had a story, a tale of love, loss, or trauma that needed to be told. We shared Alara's final warning with the world, not to instill fear, but to inspire vigilance. We emphasized the importance of hope, the power of love, and the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of darkness. The story of the Blackwood Manor became a parable, a reminder that the battle against darkness is not fought with weapons or magic, but with compassion, understanding, and the unwavering belief in the good. Years passed. The music box continued to play its gentle melody, a constant reminder of the fragile peace we had secured. Thomas, now an old man, cherished the music box, passing its story down to his children and grandchildren, ensuring that Alara's warning would never be forgotten. One day, I received a letter from Thomas's granddaughter, Sarah. She wrote that Thomas had passed away peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by his family. She also wrote that she had inherited the music box, along with the responsibility of protecting it. Sarah was young, barely out of her teens, but she possessed a wisdom beyond her years. She understood the importance of the music box, the weight of the responsibility she now carried. She wrote that she was determined to honor her grandfather's legacy, to keep the music playing, to keep the darkness at bay. A few months later, I received another letter from Sarah. This time, the tone was different. She wrote that she had noticed something strange about the music box. The melody, she said, was changing. It was becoming darker, more dissonant. She was worried that this meant the darkness was stirring, that Alara's warning was about to come true. She asked for our help, for our guidance. We immediately contacted Emily, the other descendant of the Blackwood family, and together we traveled to meet Sarah. When we arrived, she showed us the music box. The melody was indeed different, its once gentle hum now laced with a chilling undertone. We examined the music box, searching for any clues, any explanation for the change in the melody. Then, Emily noticed something. She pointed to a small inscription on the bottom of the box, an inscription that we had never seen before. It was a message, written in Alara's handwriting. It read, "When the music changes, the shadows rise. Only a true heart can restore the balance." Alara's message sent a shiver down our spines. We knew that the change in the melody was not just a coincidence. It was a sign, a warning that the darkness was indeed rising. We looked at Sarah, her young face filled with worry. She was the one who now held the music box, the one who carried the responsibility of protecting the world from the encroaching darkness. We knew what we had to do. We had to find a way to restore the balance, to return the music box to its original melody, to keep the darkness at bay. But how? What did Alara mean by a true heart? We spent days researching, studying ancient texts, searching for any clues that might help us understand Alara's message. Then we realized something. The true heart was not some magical artifact or mystical power. It was something far simpler, far more profound. It was compassion. It was empathy. It was the unwavering belief in the good. It was the ability to connect with the human spirit, to understand the pain and suffering that lie behind the darkness. We looked at Sarah, her young face filled with determination. She had a true heart. She was kind, compassionate, and deeply empathetic. She understood the weight of the responsibility she carried, but she was not afraid. We knew that she was the one who could restore the balance. We guided her, sharing with her the stories of the Blackwood family, the tale of Alara's enduring love, the message of hope that had echoed through the halls of the Blackwood Manor. We told her to listen to the music box, to connect with its melody, to feel the emotions that resonated within its notes. We told her to open her heart to the darkness, to understand its pain, to offer it compassion. Sarah closed her eyes, her hand resting gently on the music box. She listened to the melody, her heart open, her spirit attuned to its vibrations. Then, something extraordinary happened. As Sarah listened, the melody of the music box began to change. The dissonant notes softened, the darkness receded, and the gentle, familiar hum returned. The balance was restored. The darkness was once again held at bay. We looked at Sarah, her face radiant with a quiet strength. She had a true heart. She had saved the world. The story of the Blackwood Manor continued, not as a tale of fear and darkness, but as a story of hope, compassion, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The music box played on, its melody a constant reminder that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, love, empathy, and a true heart can prevail. The video ends with Sarah holding the music box, her eyes filled with hope, the gentle melody playing softly in the background, a promise that the light will endure, as long as there are true hearts to keep the music playing. The gentle melody of the music box filled the room, a soothing balm against the anxieties that had gripped us just moments before. Sarah, her face now serene, held the music box close, the intricate carvings gleaming softly in the dim light. The shift in the music had been palpable, a tangible release of tension, a return to the harmony that had been threatened. We knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within us, that the balance had been restored. The relief was immense, but it was tempered by a profound understanding. We had faced the darkness, not with weapons or magic, but with empathy and understanding. We had learned that the true power lay not in fighting the shadows, but in understanding the pain that created them. The story of the Blackwood Manor, we realized, was not just a tale of haunted houses and restless spirits. It was a story about the human heart, its capacity for both great love and profound sorrow, its ability to create both light and darkness. It was a story about the choices we make, the paths we choose, and the enduring power of compassion. We left Sarah's home that night with a renewed sense of purpose. Our journey with the Blackwood Manor had come to a close, but our work was far from over. We understood that the darkness we had encountered was not confined to a single mansion. It existed within the hearts of individuals, within the fabric of society. We continued our paranormal investigations, but with a different focus. We were no longer just seeking evidence of the supernatural. We were searching for the stories behind the hauntings, the human experiences that had shaped the energies we encountered. We became advocates for the forgotten, the lost, the misunderstood. We shared the story of the Blackwood Manor, not as a sensational tale of ghosts and demons, but as a parable of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of compassion. We emphasized the importance of empathy, the need to understand the pain that drives the darkness, the necessity of offering solace and support to those who are suffering. Years passed. Sarah grew into a remarkable young woman, carrying the responsibility of the music box with grace and wisdom. She understood the delicate balance it represented, the importance of keeping the music playing. She became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, a true heart can make a difference. One day, I received an email from Sarah. She wrote that she had been contacted by a historian who had discovered a new piece of information about the Blackwood family. It was a diary written by a distant relative who had lived during the time of the Blackwood son. The diary revealed a shocking secret. The Blackwood son had not run away because of his father's expectations. He had left because he had discovered the truth about his father's rituals. He had realized that his father was not trying to appease an external entity, but was feeding his own inner darkness, a darkness fueled by grief and guilt. The son had tried to stop his father, but he had been unsuccessful. He had fled Hollow Creek, not out of fear, but out of desperation, hoping to find a way to break the cycle of darkness that had consumed his family. The diary also revealed that the music box was not just a seal. It was a key. It was a key to unlocking the darkness, but also a key to releasing it. The melody was not just a safeguard. It was a conduit, a channel through which the darkness could be transformed. Alara, in her wisdom, had understood this. She had known that the only way to truly defeat the darkness was not to contain it, but to transform it, to transmute it into something positive. She had used the music box as a vessel, capturing the darkness and channeling it through her love, her compassion, her unwavering belief in the good. The diary entry changed everything. It revealed the true purpose of the music box, the true meaning of Alara's message. It was not just about keeping the darkness at bay. It was about transforming it, turning it into light. We shared this new information with the world, adding another layer to the already complex and compelling story of the Blackwood Manor. The tale became a testament to the transformative power of love and compassion, a reminder that even the deepest darkness can be overcome by the light of the human spirit. The music box continued to play its gentle melody, its tune now imbued with a deeper meaning. It was not just a safeguard, but a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, love can prevail, compassion can heal, and the human spirit can endure. The video ends with Sarah holding the music box, her eyes filled with wisdom and compassion, the melody playing softly in the background, a promise that the light will continue to shine, as long as there are those who are willing to embrace the darkness and transform it into light. The gentle melody of the music box, now imbued with an even deeper resonance, filled the air. It was no longer just a safeguard, nor simply a conduit. It was a testament to the enduring power of love and compassion, a beacon of hope in a world often shrouded in shadows. The story of the Blackwood Manor had evolved, revealing its final, profound secret, the transformative power of the human spirit. Sarah, now a young woman carrying the weight of her inheritance with grace and wisdom, understood the true meaning of Alara's message. The music box was not just about containing the darkness. It was about transforming it, transmuting it into light. It was a responsibility she carried not with fear, but with a deep sense of purpose. The revelation of the Blackwood Son's diary had added the final piece to the puzzle. His flight from Hollow Creek was not an act of cowardice, but a desperate attempt to break the cycle of darkness that had consumed his family. He had understood the insidious nature of his father's rituals, the way they fed upon grief and guilt, amplifying the darkness within. His journal detailed his own struggles with the inherited darkness, his constant battle to keep it at bay. This understanding changed everything. It shifted our perspective not just on the Blackwood Manor, but on the nature of darkness itself. We realized that the darkness was not an external force, an entity lurking in the shadows. It was a reflection of the human condition, a manifestation of our own inner struggles, our unresolved traumas, our unhealed wounds. We continued our paranormal investigations, but our approach was fundamentally different. We no longer sought to capture ghosts or prove the existence of the supernatural. We sought to understand the stories behind the hauntings, the human experiences that had shaped the energies we encountered. We became listeners, offering a compassionate ear to the echoes of the past, helping to bring light to the hidden corners of human experience. We shared the complete story of the Blackwood Manor, including the revelations from the Son's diary, not as a gothic tale of horror, but as a story of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of love. We emphasized the importance of self-awareness, the need to confront our own inner darkness, the necessity of offering compassion not only to others, but also to ourselves. The story resonated deeply with audiences around the world. It became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable suffering, the human spirit can endure, that love can conquer even the deepest darkness. Years passed. Sarah continued to safeguard the music box, its gentle melody a constant reminder of her responsibility. She became a beacon of light in her community, offering support and compassion to those who were struggling with their own inner darkness. One day, I received an email from Sarah. She wrote that she had discovered another hidden message, this time etched on the inside of the music box lid. It was a final message from Alara, a message that spoke to the future. The message read, "The music plays on, not just to contain the darkness, but to guide the light. Listen to the melody, feel its rhythm, and let it lead you on your path. The darkness will always be present, but it is the light that will ultimately prevail." Alara's final message was a powerful affirmation of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. It was a reminder that the battle against darkness is not a singular event, but a continuous journey, a constant striving towards the light. We shared Alara's final message with the world, completing the story of the Blackwood Manor. The tale became a timeless parable, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope remains, love endures, and the human spirit can triumph. The music box continued to play its gentle melody, its tune now a symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The video ends with Sarah holding the music box, her eyes filled with wisdom and compassion. the melody playing softly in the background, a promise that the light will continue to shine, as long as there are those who are willing to listen to the music, to embrace the darkness, and to choose the light. The screen fades to white, leaving the audience with a lingering sense of peace and a profound understanding of the true meaning of the Blackwood Manor's secrets. The enduring power of the human spirit to transform darkness into light. The white screen lingered, not an empty void, but a canvas upon which the echoes of the Blackwood Manor story continued to resonate. Alara's final message, etched on the inside of the music box lid, was a powerful affirmation, a beacon of hope illuminating the path forward. The music plays on, not just to contain the darkness, but to guide the light. Listen to the melody, feel its rhythm, and let it lead you on your path. The darkness will always be present, but it is the light that will ultimately prevail. These words were not just a conclusion to the Blackwood Manor saga. They were a beginning, a call to action. They reminded us that the battle against darkness is not a singular event, but an ongoing journey, a constant striving towards the light. And the music box, its gentle melody a constant companion, was not just a symbol, but a guide. Sarah, now a young woman embodying wisdom and compassion, understood the profound responsibility she carried. The music box was more than an artifact. It was a legacy, a reminder of the power of love, forgiveness, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. She knew that the melody held the key, not just to containing the darkness, but to transforming it, to transmuting it into light. We continued our work, our paranormal investigations evolving into a deeper exploration of the human condition. We no longer sought ghosts, we sought stories. We listened to the whispers of the past, the echoes of lives lived and lost, the pain and joy etched into the very fabric of haunted places. We became storytellers, sharing these narratives not to sensationalize the supernatural, but to illuminate the human heart. We shared the complete story of the Blackwood Manor, including Alara's final message, not as a gothic tale of horror, but as a parable of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of compassion. We emphasized the importance of self-awareness, the need to confront our own inner darkness, the necessity of offering compassion not only to others, but also to ourselves. The story resonated deeply with people around the world. It became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable suffering, the human spirit can endure, that love can conquer even the deepest darkness. It inspired countless individuals to confront their own shadows, to seek healing and understanding, to choose the path of light. Years passed. Sarah, guided by the melody of the music box, became a beacon of light in her community. She dedicated her life to helping others, offering support and compassion to those struggling with their own inner darkness. She understood that the true battleground was not some haunted mansion, but the human heart. One day, I received a letter from Sarah. She wrote that she had discovered a hidden compartment in the music box, a secret chamber revealed only when a specific sequence of notes was played on the box's mechanism. Inside the compartment, she found a small, intricately illustrated book. It was Alara's journal, detailing her life, her struggles, her hopes, and her profound understanding of the human condition. The journal revealed that Alara had not just been a victim of circumstance. She had been a powerful force for change. She had understood the interconnectedness of all things, the way that darkness and light are intertwined, the way that love and compassion can transform even the deepest pain. Alara's words were profound, her insights timeless. She wrote about the importance of self-acceptance, the need to embrace our imperfections, the necessity of forgiving ourselves and others. She wrote about the power of love to heal all wounds, the ability of compassion to bridge even the widest divides. Her journal was a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable suffering, hope remains, love endures, and light can ultimately prevail. We shared Alara's journal with the world, completing the story of the Blackwood Manor. The tale became a timeless testament to the transformative power of the human spirit, a reminder that the battle against darkness is not fought with weapons or magic, but with love, compassion, and the unwavering belief in the good. The night was alive with whispers. It was the kind of night when shadows stretched longer than they should, and the wind carried voices that did not belong. The old black hollow manor stood at the end of the road like a forgotten relic, its towering silhouette barely visible under the sliver of a dying moon. Ethan Carter adjusted his camera lens, his breath fogging up in the cold night air. Beside him, Olivia checked the EMF detector, the screen flickering erratically. Marcus, the skeptic of the group, exhaled loudly, rubbing his gloved hands together. Sarah, clutching her audio recorder, refused to look at the house for too long. "This place is worse than I imagined," she murmured. Ethan smirked, lifting the camera to his face. "And that's exactly why we're here." They had spent years chasing ghosts, capturing footage of the unexplained for their online show. But this time, something felt different. Black Hollow Manor had a history so dark that even seasoned investigators hesitated to step foot inside. The house had been abandoned for over 50 years after the Hollow family vanished overnight. Neighbors reported hearing screams, strange laughter, and flickering lights coming from inside. Some claimed that those who entered never came back. The rumors only made the challenge more irresistible. Ethan pushed open the rusted gate, the metal groaning like a wounded animal. The path leading to the house was lined with gnarled trees, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Each step forward felt heavier, as though unseen eyes watched from the darkness. The front door was slightly ajar, an invitation they should have ignored. "Ready," Ethan whispered. No one answered. He pushed the door open, and a foul stench rolled out. Mold, decay, and something metallic, like rusted iron or dried blood. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, illuminating a grand foyer covered in dust and cobwebs. The chandelier above dangled from a single chain, swinging slightly as though disturbed by an invisible hand. Then the door slammed shut behind them. Sarah yelped, spinning around. Marcus cursed under his breath. Ethan's heart pounded, but he forced a grin. Classic haunted house welcome. Let's move. They moved deeper inside, the wooden floor groaning beneath their weight. The air was thick, charged with something unseen yet suffocating. As Olivia scanned the walls with the EMF detector, the device began beeping wildly. "This is insane," she said, her voice tight. "I've never seen readings this high." A shadow flickered at the end of the hallway. Ethan turned his camera towards it. "Did you see that?" No one answered, but they all had. Marcus swallowed hard. "It's just a trick of the light." Then came the whispering. It started as a faint murmur, like wind slipping through cracks. But it grew louder, surrounding them, overlapping voices speaking in a language none of them understood. Sarah gripped Ethan's arm. "We need to leave." Ethan hesitated. The footage was incredible. If they left now, they'd be throwing away the chance of a lifetime. Then, something moved in the corner of his vision. A tall, thin figure stood at the top of the grand staircase, its form barely visible in the dim light. It had no face, only darkness where its features should be. Its head tilted unnaturally, as if studying them. Olivia let out a strangled gasp. Then it moved. It did not walk. It did not run. It glided down the stairs impossibly fast. Panic surged through Ethan's body. "Run!" They bolted. The hallway stretched longer than it should have, warping as they ran. Doors appeared where there had been none. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating them in their claustrophobic grasp. A child's laughter echoed. Sarah tripped, her scream swallowed by the darkness. Ethan skidded to a stop, reaching for her, but something pulled her back. The shadows wrapped around her ankles like living tendrils, yanking her into the void. "Sarah!" She vanished. A blood-curdling scream filled the house, high-pitched, distorted, and inhuman. Then silence. Ethan, Olivia, and Marcus stood frozen, gasping for breath. "This isn't real," Marcus whispered, but it was. The house wanted them. They burst through the nearest door, finding themselves in a candlelit room that had not been touched by time. The furniture was pristine, the fireplace crackling as if someone had just lit it. A single chair sat at the center, and Sarah was in it, Her eyes were open, but her pupils were gone, replaced by black voids. She was whispering, her voice overlapping itself, speaking in tongues that did not belong in this world. Ethan took a cautious step forward. "Sarah?" She turned her head, her movements slow, unnatural. Then, in a voice that was hers but not hers, she spoke. "They will not let you leave." The candle flames flickered violently. The walls trembled, and then the shadows attacked. A force lifted Ethan off his feet and flung him against the wall. Olivia screamed as invisible hands clawed at her. Marcus disappeared into the darkness. His terrified cries swallowed whole. Ethan struggled to move, his vision blurring. He felt something crawling over his skin, whispering into his ear, words he could not understand but somehow knew meant surrender. But then, a blinding light erupted. The whispers turned to shrieks. The shadows recoiled, hissing in agony. The entire house trembled as the light grew brighter, pushing back the darkness. And then silence. Ethan opened his eyes. He was outside. The house was gone. Not abandoned, not crumbling, just gone, as if it had never been there. Beside him, Olivia and Marcus lay unconscious but alive. Sarah stirred, her eyes normal again. Confusion etched into her face. "What happened?" she whispered. Ethan couldn't answer. The footage on his camera was gone. The recordings erased. No proof remained of what they had witnessed. But as they stood there, catching their breath, a final whisper slithered through the wind. "We are not finished." And somewhere, in a place just beyond human sight, something watched. And it was waiting. The air inside Ravenswood Asylum was suffocating, thick with the weight of the past. Ethan led the way, his camera capturing every decayed surface, every flickering shadow. The deeper they moved into the asylum, the more unnatural the silence became, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Sarah trailed behind Olivia, rubbing her arms against an unseen chill. Every few steps, she would pause, tilting her head slightly, as if listening to something no one else could hear. A sudden clang echoed through the hallway, sending a jolt through the group. Olivia swung her flashlight toward the source of the sound, revealing a rusted wheelchair rocking back and forth on its own. No wind, no movement, just the steady creak of rusted metal. Ethan tightened his grip on the camera, his pulse hammering in his ears. "That's not normal," Olivia whispered. Marcus scoffed, though his voice lacked its usual arrogance. "Probably just a rat." But even as he spoke, the wheelchair jerked violently to the side, slamming against the wall with enough force to dent the plaster. A deep, guttural growl rumbled from somewhere ahead, low and unnatural, vibrating through the floor beneath their feet. Sarah clutched Olivia's arm, her breathing rapid. "We need to go." Ethan hesitated. The logical part of his brain screamed for him to turn around, to leave before they became another footnote in the asylum's dark history. But his ambition, the part of him that craved proof, held him in place. He raised the camera. "If there's anyone here, give us a sign." The moment the words left his mouth, the temperature dropped sharply. Their breaths became visible, misting in the stagnant air. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, darkness swallowed them whole. The sound of shuffling footsteps echoed from the corridor ahead, growing louder with each passing second. It wasn't one pair of feet. It was dozens. Panic clawed at Ethan's chest as he fumbled for his flashlight. When it flickered back on, his breath caught in his throat. The hallway ahead was filled with figures, pale, gaunt, their eyes hollow pits of darkness. They stood motionless, their faces twisted in expressions of eternal agony. Olivia let out a strangled scream as one of the figures jerked forward, moving with an unnatural, bone-snapping speed. Ethan stumbled backward, his camera still rolling, the lens capturing the horror unfolding before them. Marcus grabbed his arm, dragging him away. "Move!" he shouted. They turned, running blindly through the maze of corridors, the sound of the figure's pursuit pounding in their ears. A door appeared to their left, slightly ajar. Without thinking, they shoved through it, slamming it shut behind them. The pounding continued outside, fists hammering against the wood, voices whispering in a language that didn't belong in this world. Sarah clutched her chest, her entire body trembling. "This isn't a haunting," she gasped. "This is something worse." The room they had entered was different from the others. Pristine, untouched by time. A single hospital bed stood in the center, the sheets crisp and clean. Restraints dangled from its sides, the leather straps stained a deep, aged crimson. A single name was carved into the headboard. Dr. Alistair Crown. Olivia's voice wavered. "Wasn't he the head doctor here?" Marcus nodded, swallowing hard. "The one who went missing the night the asylum shut down." A sharp, raspy breath echoed from the shadows. Ethan slowly turned his camera toward the farthest corner of the room. A figure sat in a chair, barely visible in the dim light. Thin, frail, its head tilted downward, face obscured by matted strands of hair. Then, with agonizing slowness, it lifted its head. Dr. Alistair Crown still wore his tattered lab coat, but his face was barely human. Skin stretched too tight over sharp bones, lips torn at the corners in an unnatural grin. His eyes, milky white, locked onto them. His jaw unhinged, and from his throat came a sound no human should ever make. The lights exploded, plunging them into pitch black. Ethan couldn't breathe. Something cold wrapped around his wrist, tightening like a vice. Panic flared as he struggled, but the grip was unrelenting. Then suddenly light, a blinding, searing radiance filled the room, burning away the shadows. The pressure vanished, the air shifting as if something had been violently ripped away. When their vision cleared, they were no longer in the asylum. They stood outside, the van still parked where they had left it. But Ravenswood Asylum was gone. No building, no ruins, just an empty field, as if it had never existed. The silence was deafening, broken only by Sarah's shaky breath. Ethan turned to his camera, scrolling through the footage, but every file was corrupted. Nothing remained of what they had seen. As they stood in the eerie quiet, a single whisper drifted through the air, barely audible. "We are still watching." The forest was unnervingly silent as the team arrived at the location. Towering pines loomed over them like silent sentinels, their needle-covered branches rustling in a breeze that carried a scent of damp earth and something else. Something metallic like rusted iron. Ethan Carter, gripping his camera, scanned the area with a mix of determination and unease. The reports had been too compelling to ignore. This wasn't just another urban legend. Something lurked in Blackwood Forest, something that had made even seasoned paranormal investigators refuse to return. Olivia adjusted the settings on the EMF detector, the small screen flickering erratically. "This place feels wrong," she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus, ever the skeptic, let out an exaggerated sigh. "It's a forest at night. Of course it feels wrong." Sarah, the most sensitive to supernatural energies, had barely spoken since they entered the woods. She kept glancing over her shoulder, her fingers twitching at her sides. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight. "Something is watching us." Ethan focused his camera on the narrow path ahead. "Let's just get to the cabin. That's where the reports say the activity is strongest." The cabin had been abandoned for decades, left to rot deep within Blackwood Forest. According to local stories, it had once belonged to a man named Edgar Morrow, a recluse rumored to have dabbled in dark rituals. Hikers reported hearing whispers when they passed through the area, and more disturbingly, some had gone missing, vanishing without a trace. The few who were found could never explain what had happened to them. They only repeated one thing over and over: "Don't look into the mirror." The path twisted and narrowed, forcing them into a single-file line. The deeper they went, the more unnatural the forest became. The trees grew too close together, their gnarled roots twisting over one another like writhing fingers. The air became heavier, thick with something unseen but felt. Then the cabin came into view. It was smaller than expected, hunched under the weight of time. The wooden planks were warped and splintered, the windows cracked, their panes so clouded with grime that they reflected nothing. The front door hung slightly ajar, swaying faintly in the wind. But there was no wind. Olivia shuddered. "Why do I feel like it's waiting for us?" Ethan kept his camera rolling. Only one way to find out. They stepped inside. The air was stale, carrying the scent of rotting wood and something deeper, more rancid. Dust swirled in their flashlight beams, coating the abandoned furniture in thick layers. A fireplace sat in the far corner, charred logs still resting in the hearth as if the last occupant had just left. But the strangest part of the cabin wasn't its unnatural silence. It was the mirror. A massive, ornate mirror stood against the far wall, far too large for the small cabin. Its frame was blackened silver, covered in strange symbols that pulsed faintly under their flashlights. The glass itself was smooth and perfect, reflecting their images with unsettling clarity. Sarah's breathing hitched. "It's humming." Ethan frowned. "What?" Sarah took a shaky step back. "The mirror. It's humming." Then the reflection moved. Not all of them, just one. Marcus's reflection smiled. Marcus hadn't moved. The room dropped into chaos. The mirror shuddered violently, the glass rippling as if it were liquid. The humming grew louder, turning into a distorted chorus of voices speaking in an ancient, unintelligible tongue. Marcus stumbled backward, his face pale. "That's not me," he choked out. Ethan barely had time to react before the mirror cracked, a jagged web spreading across its surface. A shriek, inhuman and deafening, erupted from within. The glass shattered outward, sending shards flying in every direction. But instead of breaking apart, the mirror opened. A dark void stretched beyond the broken glass, a gaping hole that led somewhere else. A place where the shadows writhed like living things, where figures moved in the distance, their hollow eyes locked onto the team. A hand shot out, long skeletal, fingers too many. It latched onto Marcus's ankle. He screamed. Ethan lunged forward, grabbing his arm just as the hand pulled. Marcus's body jerked toward the mirror, his heels scraping against the wooden floor, his terrified eyes locking onto Ethan's. "Don't let go!" he cried. The others scrambled to pull him back, but the force from the other side was too strong. Another hand emerged, grabbing his other leg. The void pulsed, hunger radiating from its depths. And then Sarah spoke. A single word, not her own. A language unknown to any of them, yet so ancient it sent a ripple through reality itself. The hands recoiled as if burned. The void trembled. A violent force exploded outward, knocking them all to the ground. The mirror shattered completely this time, its pieces disintegrating into nothing. The void was gone, and so was the cabin. The team found themselves standing in the middle of an empty forest clearing. No structure, no mirror, only the still, watchful trees. Marcus gasped for breath, staring at his hands as if making sure he was still there. Olivia clutched the EMF detector, its screen completely dead. Ethan's camera was still in his grip. He checked the footage. Nothing remained. No mirror, no void, no hands. But as the team stood in the clearing, shaken and silent, a whisper drifted through the trees. "We are not finished." And somewhere, in a place unseen, something smiled. The rain poured relentlessly as Ethan Carter sped down the narrow, winding road leading to Ravenhill Manor. The tires of his van splashed through deep puddles, the wipers struggling to keep the windshield clear. He barely glanced at his team, Olivia, Marcus, and Sarah, who sat in tense silence. The air inside the vehicle was thick with anticipation, an unspoken understanding that tonight would be different from their usual investigations. The manor had been abandoned for over a century, its dark history buried under layers of rumor and fear. Local legends spoke of Eleanor Hawthorne, the last known resident of Ravenhill, who had vanished without a trace in 1872. The townsfolk whispered that she had been practicing forbidden rituals, her soul forever trapped within the walls of her estate. Those who dared approach the manor often reported hearing her voice, whispering in the wind, warning them to leave. But some had never returned. As Ethan pulled up in front of the estate, the headlights revealed the decaying structure in all its eerie glory. The towering mansion loomed over them, its Gothic architecture bathed in the silver glow of the storm. The windows were dark voids, like watchful eyes, and the once grand entrance stood slightly ajar, as if inviting them inside. "This place gives me the creeps," Olivia murmured, gripping her EMF detector. Sarah shuddered, rubbing her arms. "It's different. There's something waiting for us." Marcus, ever the skeptic, scoffed. "It's just an old house. Let's get the footage and get out." Ethan ignored their apprehension, adjusting the camera as he stepped toward the entrance. His heart pounded, but he wouldn't let fear stop him. This could be their breakthrough, the ultimate evidence of the paranormal. The door creaked open wider as they entered, revealing a massive foyer covered in dust and decay. A grand staircase stretched toward the second floor, its wooden steps groaning under the weight of time. Portraits lined the walls, their subjects faceless. The paint peeled away as if something had deliberately erased them. The air smelled of damp wood and something faintly metallic. Then the door slammed shut behind them. Sarah gasped, spinning around. That wasn't the wind. A sudden whisper rippled through the room. Not words, just a chilling breath that sent shivers down their spines. The temperature dropped instantly, their breaths visible in the dim light. Ethan steadied the camera. "All right, let's split up and cover more ground." "No way," Marcus snapped. "We stick together this time." Ethan hesitated but nodded. Something about this place felt wrong, and he wasn't about to take unnecessary risks. They moved carefully through the mansion, their flashlights flickering as if struggling against an unseen force. In the parlor, they found an antique mirror, tall and cracked, its glass smeared with something dark. Olivia approached cautiously, running her fingers along the edge of the frame. "Why does it feel warm?" she whispered. Before anyone could answer, the mirror shifted. Not the frame, not the glass, the reflection. Their reflections weren't mirroring their movements. Instead, they stood motionless, staring back with hollow eyes. A strangled gasp escaped Sarah's lips. "They're not us." Marcus took a step back. "We're leaving, right now." But the moment he turned, the door vanished. Where there had once been an open doorway, there was now only a solid wall. The house had trapped them. The whispering returned, growing louder, more urgent. The portraits on the walls began weeping, dark streaks of something thick and red trickling down the canvas. Footsteps echoed from the second floor, slow and deliberate. And then a woman's voice. "You shouldn't have come." The lights exploded, plunging them into darkness. Ethan felt something cold wrap around his wrist, pulling him toward the mirror. He struggled, but the force was relentless. The others screamed as unseen hands grabbed at them, dragging them toward the endless void within the glass. Desperation took over. Sarah clutched the pendant around her neck, her lips moving in frantic whispers. A sudden burst of light erupted from her hands, filling the room with a blinding radiance. The whispering stopped. The hands released them. When the light faded, they were no longer in the parlor. They stood outside, rain still pouring down around them. Ravenhill Manor was gone. Not abandoned, not ruined, just vanished. The land where it had once stood was now an empty, silent field. Ethan's camera still rolled. He checked the footage, but every file was corrupted. No proof, no evidence, nothing to prove what had happened. Marcus exhaled shakily. "We were never supposed to leave." Olivia turned, staring at the empty space where the manor should have been. "But we did." Sarah, still gripping her pendant, whispered, "For now." And from the darkness beyond the trees, something whispered back. The train rattled violently as it cut through the thick fog, its whistle echoing across the desolate countryside. The Midnight Express had been decommissioned decades ago after a mysterious disappearance. A full train of passengers, gone without a trace. No wreckage, no bodies, just an empty rail line stretching into the unknown. Now, for the first time in years, the Midnight Express had returned, and Ethan Carter, along with his paranormal investigation team, was aboard. Ethan tightened his grip on his camera, scanning the dimly lit compartment. The train's interior was eerily pristine, untouched by time. The velvet seats were plush, the brass fixtures gleaming under the flickering lights. Yet the air felt wrong, heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding a long-buried secret. "Why is everything so clean?" Olivia murmured, running her fingers over the polished wood. "This thing's been abandoned for years." Sarah rubbed her arms, shifting uneasily. "No dust, no signs of decay. It's like it never left." Marcus scoffed, forcing a laugh. "Or maybe someone's been keeping it nice for us." No one responded. The train let out a long, shuddering whistle, and the compartment lurched forward. The windows, which should have revealed the dark countryside, now showed nothing, only an endless, swirling black void. Ethan adjusted the camera, trying to steady his breathing. "All right, we document everything. No splitting up. Let's get the footage and get out." The corridor ahead stretched longer than it should have, the flickering lamps casting distorted shadows against the polished walls. Each door they passed had a small plaque with an engraved name, but the names were scratched out, deep gouges scarring the brass plates. The deeper they moved into the train, the colder the air became, their breaths misting in the dim light. Then the whispers began, faint at first, just on the edge of hearing. Not words, just sounds. A distant, rhythmic tapping echoed through the halls, growing louder with each passing second. Olivia's EMF detector flickered erratically. "There's something here," she whispered. A sudden thud made them all jump. The door at the end of the hallway shuddered violently, as if something on the other side was trying to get through. Ethan aimed his camera toward the door. "We're not alone." The door creaked open. Beyond it was another passenger compartment, identical to the one they had entered, except for one detail. The seats were occupied. Figures sat motionless in their places, their backs facing the group. Their clothing was dated, tattered remnants of a time long past. None of them moved. None of them breathed. Sarah let out a shaky whisper. "Are they real?" Marcus took a cautious step forward. "They're just mannequins, or..." One of the figures turned its head. The motion was slow, unnatural, the neck bending at an impossible angle. The face that greeted them was featureless, a smooth expanse of pale skin where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. The other figures followed, each one slowly turning, their hollow, faceless visages locking onto the team. Then they stood up. The lights died. The compartment erupted into chaos. The sound of scraping feet, distorted whispers, and a deep, guttural humming filled the air. Ethan's camera flickered as he stumbled backward, the darkness swallowing everything. A cold hand brushed his shoulder. "Run!" Olivia screamed. They bolted down the corridor, their footsteps hammering against the floor. The train seemed endless, the compartments stretching into infinity. No matter how far they ran, they never reached the end. The whispers followed, growing louder, more insistent. Then suddenly silence. The team came to a halt, gasping for breath. They were no longer on the train. They stood on an empty platform, the air thick with fog. The Midnight Express was gone. No tracks, no sound, just the dim glow of an abandoned station, its name worn away by time. Ethan checked his camera. Every file was corrupted. Marcus swallowed hard. "Tell me we got off." Sarah turned, staring into the darkness beyond the platform. Her voice was hollow. "What if we didn't?" And then, a train whistle, coming closer. But there were no tracks. The rain fell in sheets, drumming against the windows of the old Victorian house that stood at the end of a winding road. It was a place that had long been forgotten by time, its once vibrant colors now faded to a dull gray. The locals whispered tales of the house, claiming it was haunted by the spirits of those who had perished within its walls. But for a group of paranormal investigators, it was the perfect setting for their next adventure. Evelyn, the leader of the group, had received an anonymous invitation to explore the house. The note was simple, yet chilling. "Come alone, and you will uncover the truth." Intrigued and slightly unnerved, she gathered her team: Mark, the skeptic, Sarah, the medium, and Tom, the tech expert. They arrived at the house just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. As they stepped inside, the air grew heavy with an unsettling energy. The floorboards creaked beneath their feet, and the scent of mildew filled their nostrils. Evelyn felt a shiver run down her spine, but she brushed it off. This was what they lived for, the thrill of the unknown. The first night was uneventful, filled with the usual sounds of an old house settling. They set up their equipment, cameras, and EVP recorders, eager to capture any signs of paranormal activity. As the hours passed, they shared ghost stories, laughter echoing through the empty halls. But as midnight approached, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter faded, replaced by an oppressive silence. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the upstairs. The team exchanged nervous glances, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Mark, ever the skeptic, suggested it was just the wind, but Evelyn felt a pull, an inexplicable urge to investigate. They climbed the staircase, the air growing colder with each step. At the top, they found a door slightly ajar. Evelyn pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with dust-covered furniture. In the center stood an old mirror, its surface clouded with age. As they approached, Sarah gasped, her eyes widening in fear. "There's something in there," she whispered, pointing at the mirror. Evelyn leaned closer, peering into the glass. At first, she saw only her reflection, but then it shifted. A shadowy figure appeared behind her, its features indistinguishable. She spun around, but the room was empty. Heart racing, she turned back to the mirror, but the figure was gone. "Did you see that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mark shrugged, dismissing it as a trick of the light, but Sarah was not convinced. "We need to leave this room," she urged, her voice shaky. Reluctantly, they retreated, but the feeling of being watched lingered. That night, they struggled to sleep, the weight of the house pressing down on them. Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. As dawn broke, they gathered in the living room, discussing their experiences. Tom reviewed the footage from the night before, his brow furrowing in concentration. "Look at this," he said, pausing the video. On the screen, a fleeting shadow darted across the frame. This wasn't here before. The team exchanged uneasy glances, the reality of their situation sinking in. Determined to uncover the truth, they decided to conduct a séance that evening. Sarah prepared the room, lighting candles and arranging the furniture in a circle. As they joined hands, the atmosphere thickened, a palpable energy swirling around them. "Spirits of this house, we seek your presence," Sarah called out, her voice steady. The candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing the flames. Panic surged through the group as they fumbled for their flashlights. In the darkness, they heard whispers, soft, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to echo from the walls. Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you want?" she shouted, her voice trembling. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices pleading for release. Then, a loud crash shattered the tension. A heavy bookshelf toppled over, sending books flying across the room. Mark cursed under his breath, his skepticism wavering. "We need to get out of here," he urged, but Evelyn was determined to stay. The next day, they decided to research the history of the house. They discovered that it had once belonged to a family who had mysteriously vanished. Rumors swirled about a dark ritual that had taken place within its walls, a desperate attempt to summon something beyond their understanding. The more they learned, the more the house seemed to come alive, its secrets clawing at the edges of their minds. As night fell again, they prepared for another investigation. The atmosphere was thick with tension, each member of the team acutely aware of the weight of the house's history. They set up their equipment in the living room, the flickering lights casting long shadows that danced ominously on the walls. Evelyn felt a sense of foreboding, but she pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. As they began their investigation, Sarah closed her eyes, reaching out to the spirits that lingered in the house. "I can feel them," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're restless, trapped between worlds." Mark rolled his eyes, but Evelyn could see the unease etched on his face. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and their breath became visible in the air. A low hum filled the room, vibrating through their bones. Tom adjusted the camera, capturing the moment, while Evelyn felt a surge of adrenaline. "Is anyone here with us?" she called out, her voice steady despite the fear creeping in. In response, a loud thud echoed from the hallway, followed by the sound of footsteps. The team froze, exchanging terrified glances. "It's just the house settling," Mark insisted, but even he sounded uncertain. They decided to investigate the source of the noise, moving cautiously down the dimly lit corridor. As they approached the source, they found a door slightly ajar, the hinges creaking ominously. Evelyn pushed it open, revealing a small room filled with old toys and dusty furniture. In the corner stood a child's rocking chair, swaying gently as if someone had just left it. Sarah gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "This is where they played," she whispered, her voice trembling. Evelyn stepped closer, feeling an inexplicable connection to the room. "What happened to you?" she asked softly, hoping to reach the spirits trapped within. The air grew heavy, and the whispers returned, more urgent this time. "Help us," they seemed to plead. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them, plunging the room into darkness. Panic surged through the group as they fumbled for their flashlights. "We need to get out," Mark shouted, but the door wouldn't budge. Evelyn felt a surge of determination. "We can't leave them," she insisted, her heart racing. In that moment, Sarah began to chant, her voice rising above the chaos. "Spirits, we are here to help you. Show us the way." The room trembled, and the whispers grew louder, coalescing into a single voice that echoed in their minds. "Free us!" With a sudden burst of energy, the door flew open, and they stumbled out into the hallway, gasping for breath. The house felt alive, the walls pulsating with a dark energy. They regrouped in the living room, shaken but resolute. "We need to perform a cleansing ritual," Sarah declared, her eyes filled with determination. As they gathered the necessary items, the atmosphere shifted again. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision, and the whispers grew frantic. "They're angry," Tom said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to hurry." They formed a circle in the living room, placing candles around them. Sarah led the ritual, her voice steady as she called upon the spirits to reveal their truth. The candles flickered violently, and the temperature dropped once more. Evelyn felt a presence behind her, a cold breath against her neck. "Who are you?" she demanded, turning to face the darkness. A figure emerged, its features obscured by shadows. "You should not have come here," it hissed, the voice echoing with malice. The team recoiled, fear gripping their hearts. But Evelyn stood her ground. "We're here to help you," she said, her voice unwavering. The figure hesitated, and for a moment, the darkness seemed to waver. "Help us?" it whispered, the anger dissipating into sorrow. As the ritual continued, the energy in the room shifted. The shadows began to retreat, and the whispers transformed into soft cries of gratitude. The figure before them began to dissolve, revealing a young girl with tear-streaked cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. With a final chant, Sarah completed the ritual, and a warm light enveloped the room. The oppressive energy lifted, replaced by a sense of peace. The spirits were finally free, their presence fading into the light. As dawn broke, the team emerged from the house, exhausted but triumphant. They had faced their fears and uncovered the truth behind the haunting. The old Victorian house stood silent, its secrets finally laid to rest. Evelyn felt a sense of closure, knowing they had made a difference. But as they drove away, a lingering question remained. What other mysteries lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? The camera footage captured their journey, a testament to their bravery and the power of the unknown. As they reviewed the footage later, they noticed something unsettling. A fleeting shadow in the corner of the frame, a reminder that not all spirits had found peace. The screen flickered, and for a brief moment, the image of the girl appeared again, her eyes filled with both gratitude and sorrow. Evelyn shivered, realizing that their adventure was far from over. The house may have been cleansed, But the world of the paranormal was vast and filled with untold stories. Each investigation would lead them deeper into the unknown, where shadows lurked and mysteries awaited. As they drove into the rising sun, the team shared a newfound bond forged in the fires of fear and courage. They had faced the darkness together, and it had changed them. The thrill of the unknown now felt like a calling, a path they were destined to follow. In the weeks that followed, they received more invitations, each one more intriguing than the last. The stories of haunted places, lost souls, and dark rituals beckoned them, promising adventure and danger. They knew they had to answer the call, to seek out the shadows and bring light to the forgotten. Evelyn smiled as she looked at her team, their eyes filled with determination. They were ready for whatever lay ahead, united by their experiences and the knowledge that they could face anything together. The world was full of mysteries, and they were just beginning to scratch the surface. As they prepared for their next investigation, Evelyn felt a sense of excitement mixed with trepidation. The unknown was a double-edged sword, capable of revealing both beauty and terror, but she was ready to embrace it all, to uncover the truth hidden in the shadows. And so, their journey continued, a thrilling adventure into the heart of darkness, where every investigation held the promise of discovery and the potential for miracles. The shadows of the forgotten would no longer remain silent, for they had found their voices, and the team was determined to listen. Chapter 6. The next invitation weeks passed, and the team found themselves drawn deeper into the world of the paranormal. Each investigation brought new challenges, but the bond they shared only grew stronger. One evening, as they gathered in their makeshift headquarters, a new invitation arrived, this time delivered by a courier. The envelope was sealed with a wax emblem, a symbol they had never seen before. Evelyn opened it carefully, her heart racing with anticipation. The letter inside was elegantly written, detailing a location that promised to be even more sinister than their previous encounters. The Hollow Manor, it read, "Where the veil between worlds is thin, come prepared, for the darkness is alive." Mark raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched on his face. "Another haunted house? What makes this one different?" he asked, but Evelyn could see the flicker of curiosity in his eyes. Sarah, however, was already nodding, her intuition sensing the weight of the invitation. "We have to go," she insisted, her voice filled with urgency. Tom began to research the manor, his fingers flying over the keyboard. It was built in the late 1800s by a reclusive family. They say the original owner dabbled in the occult, and many who entered never returned. The room fell silent, the gravity of their next adventure settling over them. The day of their departure arrived, and the team set out for the Hollow Manor, excitement and trepidation mingling in the air. As they drove through the winding roads, the landscape grew increasingly desolate, the trees looming like sentinels guarding the secrets of the manor. When they finally arrived, the sight before them was both breathtaking and terrifying. The manor stood tall against the darkening sky, its Gothic architecture casting eerie shadows. Ivy clung to the walls, and the windows were dark, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine, but she steeled herself, reminding her team of their purpose. As they entered, the air grew thick with an unsettling energy. The foyer was grand yet decaying, dust motes dancing in the shafts of light that filtered through the grimy windows. They set up their equipment, the familiar hum of anticipation buzzing in the air. That night, they began their investigation, splitting into pairs to cover more ground. Evelyn and Sarah ventured into the library, a room filled with ancient tomes and forgotten knowledge. As they explored, Sarah's expression shifted, her eyes glazing over as she reached out to the spirits. "I can feel them," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They're angry, trapped in this place." Evelyn felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "What do they want?" she asked, but Sarah shook her head, her connection to the other side growing stronger. Meanwhile, Mark and Tom were in the basement, where the air was damp and heavy. They set up cameras and began to record, but as they did, a loud crash echoed from the far corner. "What was that?" Mark exclaimed, his skepticism wavering. They cautiously approached the source of the noise, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, a figure darted past them, a fleeting shadow that sent chills down their spines. "Did you see that?" Tom gasped, his voice barely above a whisper. Mark nodded, his bravado fading. "We need to regroup," he said, urgency creeping into his tone. Back in the library, Evelyn and Sarah joined forces with Mark and Tom, sharing their experiences. The atmosphere grew tense as they discussed the strange occurrences. "We need to perform a seance," Sarah suggested, her voice steady. "It's the only way to communicate with the spirits." They gathered in a circle, candles flickering around them. Sarah led the seance, her voice calm as she called upon the spirits of the manor. The air crackled with energy, and the temperature dropped, their breath visible in the dim light. As they reached out, the whispers returned, echoing through the room. "Help us," they pleaded, the voices intertwining in a haunting melody. Evelyn felt a surge of empathy, her heart aching for the souls trapped within the manor. Suddenly, the candles flickered violently, and a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the flames. Panic surged through the group as they fumbled for their flashlights. "We need to leave," Mark shouted, but Evelyn felt a pull, an urge to stay and confront the darkness. The rain poured relentlessly, drenching the city in a cold, gray haze. Claire tightened her coat around her as she hurried down the dimly lit street, her suitcase wheels clicking against the wet pavement. She had been driving for hours, her car breaking down on a deserted stretch of highway. With no signal on her phone and the nearest town miles away, she had no choice but to walk. Finally, she spotted a flickering neon sign in the distance, the Blackwood Hotel. Relief washed over her. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. The hotel loomed before her, an old, decrepit building that looked like it hadn't seen a guest in decades. Its windows were dark, and the paint on the walls was peeling. Claire hesitated for a moment, but the biting wind and the relentless rain pushed her forward. She stepped inside, the bell above the door jingling faintly. The lobby was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of mildew and old wood. A single chandelier hung from the ceiling, its crystals dull and dusty. Behind the counter stood an elderly man with a hunched back and a face etched with deep wrinkles. He looked up from his newspaper, his eyes narrowing as he studied her. "Room for the night?" he asked, his voice raspy. Claire nodded, pulling out her wallet. "Yes, please. Just one night." The man handed her a key attached to a heavy brass fob. "Room 13. Third floor. Elevator's broken, so you'll have to take the stairs." Claire forced a smile, though unease prickled at the back of her neck. Room 13? She wasn't superstitious, but the number felt ominous. Still, she had no other options. She thanked the man and made her way to the staircase, her footsteps echoing in the empty lobby. The stairs creaked with every step, the sound unnerving in the silence. When she reached the third floor, the hallway stretched before her, lined with doors that looked like they hadn't been opened in years. The carpet was threadbare, and the wallpaper was peeling. Claire found room 13 at the end of the hall, the number barely legible on the tarnished plaque. She unlocked the door and stepped inside, flicking on the light switch. The room was small and sparsely furnished, with a single bed, a dresser, and a chair. The air was cold, and the window was covered with heavy curtains. Claire set her suitcase down inside, exhaustion weighing on her. She just needed to rest for the night. As she unpacked her things, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. The room felt off. The air was too still, the silence too heavy. She glanced around, her eyes darting to the corners of the room. Nothing. She shook her head, chiding herself for being paranoid. But then she saw it. Out of the corner of her eye, a shadow moved. It was fleeting, just a flicker, but it was enough to make her heart skip a beat. She turned sharply, her breath catching in her throat. The room was empty. She stared at the spot where she had seen the shadow, her pulse racing. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. There was no response. Claire took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. It was just her imagination, she told herself. She was tired, stressed, and in a creepy hotel. Of course, her mind was playing tricks on her. She decided to take a shower, hoping the warm water would help her relax. The bathroom was small and outdated, the tiles cracked and the faucet dripping. Claire turned on the water, the sound of it filling the room. As she stepped under the spray, she closed her eyes, letting the warmth soothe her. But then she heard it, a faint whisper, barely audible over the sound of the water. Her eyes snapped open and she froze. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice shaking. There was no answer. She turned off the water and grabbed a towel, wrapping it around herself. Her heart was pounding now, her hands trembling as she opened the bathroom door. The room was empty. Claire's breath came in short, shallow gasps. She was sure she had heard something. She grabbed her phone, but there was still no signal. She felt trapped, the walls of the room closing in on her. She needed to get out of there. She quickly dressed and grabbed her suitcase, her hands fumbling with the key. She opened the door and stepped into the hallway, her eyes darting around. The hallway was empty, the silence oppressive. She hurried toward the staircase, her footsteps echoing loudly. But as she reached the stairs, she stopped. Standing at the bottom was a figure cloaked in darkness. It was a man, but his features were obscured by shadows, as if he were part of the very darkness that surrounded him. Claire's heart raced, and she felt a chill run down her spine. She squinted, trying to make out his face, but it was like looking into a void. "Excuse me?" she called out, her voice wavering. The figure didn't move, just stood there, watching her. Panic surged through her, and she turned to run back to her room, slamming the door behind her. She leaned against it, her breath coming in quick gasps. What was happening? Was she losing her mind? She glanced around the room, searching for something to calm her nerves. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist, and she felt the weight of unseen eyes upon her. Claire grabbed her phone again, hoping for a miracle, but the screen remained blank. No signal. She was utterly alone. Suddenly, a soft knock echoed from the door. Claire jumped, her heart racing. "Who is it?" she called, her voice barely above a whisper. There was no response, just silence. She took a cautious step toward the door, her hand hovering over the knob. Should she open it? What if it was the Shadow Man? With a deep breath, she turned the knob and pulled the door open a crack. The hallway was empty. She peered out, her heart pounding in her chest. "Hello?" she called again, but only silence greeted her. She stepped out into the hallway, her instincts screaming at her to retreat, but curiosity pushed her forward. As she walked down the corridor, the air grew colder and the shadows deepened. She reached the staircase and hesitated, glancing back at her room. The door stood ajar, a dark void that seemed to beckon her. But the figure was gone, and she felt a strange compulsion to find out more. Claire descended the stairs, each step echoing in the stillness. The lobby was empty, the old man behind the counter nowhere to be seen. She felt a sense of unease wash over her, but she pressed on, determined to uncover the mystery of the hotel. As she stepped outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the pale moonlight. She wandered around the hotel, searching for any sign of life. The air was thick with tension, and she felt as if she were being watched. Just as she was about to turn back, she noticed a flickering light coming from a small building behind the hotel. Curiosity piqued. She approached the building, her heart racing. It was a small shed, its door slightly ajar. She pushed it open, and the light flickered again, revealing a dusty interior filled with old furniture and forgotten relics. In the corner, a mirror stood, its surface clouded with grime. As she stepped closer, she felt a strange pull, as if the mirror were calling to her. She wiped away the dust with her sleeve, revealing her reflection. But behind her, in the dim light, she saw the Shadow Man again, lurking just out of sight. She spun around, but he was gone. "Who are you?" she shouted into the darkness, her voice echoing in the small space. There was no answer, just the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She turned back to the mirror, her breath hitching in her throat. The shadow man was there again, closer this time, his features still obscured. Suddenly, the mirror began to ripple, the surface distorting like water. Claire stumbled back, fear gripping her. "What do you want?" she cried, but the shadow man remained silent, his presence suffocating. In that moment, she felt a surge of courage. "I'm not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice strong. The mirror shimmered, and for a brief second, she saw a glimpse of the man's face, a look of sorrow and desperation. It was then that she realized he wasn't there to harm her. He was trapped, just like her. The realization hit her like a wave. "You need help?" she whispered, her heart aching for the lost soul before her. The shadow man nodded slowly, and Claire felt a connection, a bond forged in their shared loneliness. Determined to help him, she reached out to the mirror, her fingers brushing against the cool surface. "I'll find a way to free you," she promised, her voice steady. The mirror rippled again, and the shadow man's form flickered, as if he were fading. Suddenly, the door to the shed burst open, and the old man from the hotel stood there, his eyes wide with alarm. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice harsh. "You shouldn't be in this place." Claire turned to him, her heart racing. "I'm trying to help him," she exclaimed, pointing at the mirror. The old man's expression shifted from anger to something resembling fear. He stepped closer, his gaze fixed on the mirror. "You don't understand," he said, his voice low and urgent. "That shadow man is a curse. He's been trapped in that mirror for decades, feeding off the fear of those who dare to look into it. You must leave this place before it's too late." Claire shook her head, determination flooding her veins. "No, he's not a monster. He's just lost. I can help him." The old man's face hardened, and he stepped between her and the mirror, blocking her view. "You don't know what you're dealing with," he warned. "Many have tried to help him, and none have returned. He will take you with him if you let him." Claire felt a chill run down her spine, but she couldn't back down now. "I can't just abandon him," she insisted, her voice rising. "He deserves a chance to be free." The old man's eyes softened for a moment, and Claire could see the weight of his own regrets. "You're brave, but bravery can lead to folly. The shadow man is not what he seems. He was once a man, but he made a terrible choice, and now he's trapped in a cycle of darkness." "What choice?" Claire pressed, her heart racing. "What happened to him?" The old man hesitated, glancing back at the mirror. "He sought power beyond his understanding. He dabbled in the occult, trying to summon forces he couldn't control. In his arrogance, he became the very thing he feared. Now he wanders, lost between worlds, seeking to drag others into his darkness." Claire's heart ached for the shadow man. "But he's not evil. He's just trapped. I can feel it." She stepped around the old man, her eyes locked on the mirror. The shadow man's form flickered, and she could see the pain etched on his face. "Please," she whispered, reaching out again. "I want to help you." The old man grabbed her arm, his grip firm. "You must listen to me. If you look into that mirror again, you may never return. You'll become part of his darkness." Claire met his gaze, her resolve unwavering. "I can't leave him like this. I won't." With that, she pulled free from his grasp and stepped closer to the mirror, her heart pounding in her chest. The surface rippled, and the shadow man's form solidified. "Help me," he pleaded, his voice echoing in her mind. "I am lost, and I cannot find my way back." Claire took a deep breath, her heart racing. "I'll help you," she promised, "but you have to trust me." As she reached out to the mirror, the old man shouted, "No, Claire, don't." But it was too late. Her fingers brushed against the cool surface, and a surge of energy coursed through her. The world around her shifted, and she felt herself being pulled into the mirror. The darkness enveloped her, and she gasped as she found herself standing in a shadowy realm, the air thick with despair. The shadow man stood before her, his form more defined now, but still cloaked in darkness. "Welcome," he said, his voice a haunting melody. "You've come to help me." Claire nodded, her heart racing. I want to free you. But how? He gestured to the swirling shadows around them. You must confront the darkness within yourself. Only then can I be released. Claire felt a wave of fear wash over her. What do you mean? Every fear, every regret, every moment of darkness you've faced. It all feeds this place. You must face it and let it go. His eyes bore into hers, and she felt the weight of his sorrow. Taking a deep breath, Claire closed her eyes, allowing the memories to flood her mind. She saw her past, the moments of doubt, the failures, the pain of loss. Each memory felt like a shadow, creeping closer, threatening to consume her. But she stood firm. I won't let you take me, she declared, her voice steady. I choose to let go of my fears. As she spoke those words, the shadows around her began to shift, swirling like a storm. The Shadow Man watched, his expression a mix of hope and desperation. You must believe it, he urged. You must let them go. With each memory she confronted, Claire felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She faced her fears head-on, acknowledging the pain but refusing to let it define her. The shadows began to dissipate, their hold on her weakening. Keep going, the Shadow Man encouraged, his voice growing stronger. You're almost there. Claire pressed on, her heart racing as she faced the darkest moments of her life. She saw her childhood fears, the loneliness that had haunted her, the heartbreak of lost relationships. Each memory was a shadow, but she refused to let them consume her. I am not afraid, she declared, her voice echoing in the void. With every declaration, the shadows